Please now welcome Bob Drizis, who will be talking about alternative sources of revenue. Bob is the Vice President of Financing at Peak Hill Capital, our title sponsor, and he specializes in the affordable rental housing sector.
Brenda, thank you for the introduction. My mic's okay, Igor?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I put together a comprehensive slide deck just in case we decide to distribute. And so undetermined, but it will be dense. I promise you we're not going to dwell on every word. Next slide, please. And in anticipation of perhaps we are going to be distributing the deck, I obviously have to include a disclaimer. You know, we're talking about conceptual things here, any numbers, obviously, any projections we're going to discuss. It is in the context of an overall discussion. So I just want to make everyone mindful of that. Next slide, please. So a quick public service announcement, PSA, who's Peak Hill Capital? You know, we are effectively an asset management company. That's the best way to view our services. And we provide more or less capital solutions for partners, for borrowers. And those solutions come in two forms, in the form of debt or equity. And I encourage you to take a look at our website. It's comprehensive. It talks about some of our programs and our leadership team. So I encourage you to do that on your own. So we're doing this principally within our own account, our own funds. And we do have some investment partner accounts also that we manage on behalf of. The equity side, we're looking at opportunities across Canada and the United States. Mostly in the multifamily space. We feel we have the most competencies in that sector. We have 4 projects, I think, on the go now, quite substantive. And so very active and continue to look at opportunities to participate in joint venture equity projects. Next slide, please. The other part of our platform is the conventional lending part. And it is typically providing mortgages, mortgage financing to borrowers. And again, the multifamily space is the most, we have the most knowledge in that particular sector of the real estate industry. So conventionally, bridge loans, acquisition loans, asset repositioning, that's certainly a growing part of our business. The largest business line, from my understanding, I've only been with the company, by the way, for about a month and a half or so now, is our CMHC-based lending. And so we're an approved lender. We underwrite internally. We obtain the certificate of insurance, and we are the lender for any of those loans. I'd like to make a distinction here, though. Not everyone realizes that CMHC as an entity provides 2 functions, and the conventional function is as an insurer. So the borrower pays a premium and collected by the feds, and they use that for default purposes in case something happens to the actual loan. And so the lender in that program are the financial institutions, no different than us. So we would be the lender in that situation. But the other component of CMHC that not everyone understands is that CMHC acts as a direct funder also. They have a variety of programs created, some prior to the National Housing Strategy, some concurrently, where they are actually the lender of funds. And so it is not an insurance program. So they go to the market with the rest of their bond requirements, and they fund projects under the RCFI in co-investment program. So as an organization, we're very committed to the multifamily sector, and we have knowledge and skill set to help out with certainly the government programs that are available in the multifamily sector. Next page, please. So The previous speakers have done a great job in being the last person presenting. It's always difficult to be a little innovative or include original content, but let me see if I can add a different spin on some of the commentary that's been made. This is a slide I use for all my presentations. And, it's referred to as the housing continuum. And if you step back and think about what that means, an evolution, perhaps, something better or something to strive for. If and not to be, contradictory, but, it feels to me that that's probably a poor choice of words. What we're doing is identifying the housing spectrum in our society and how we can each participate in that spectrum. And to think that it's a continuum, that we all start off homeless and our goal is to one day own a market-based home, I just don't think is practical or logical. And that debate can be had maybe outside of that forum. And so my point here is that I look at the housing landscape as a spectrum, not a continuum, and that each of us can serve within a component of that to the best of our abilities. So most of this presentation is going to be around the affordable rental housing component within the spectrum. Next slide, please. Let's start with something so basic that becomes controversial. One of my pastimes before COVID was going to planning meetings, picking a city throughout Southwestern Ontario, attending the actual planning meeting and listening into applications. And in one case, I actually was referred by the local mayor as the traveling delegate because I got up and spoke to one of the issues. So, let's make sure we define and understand as we go through this presentation of what we mean by affordable, because it's misused, misapplied quite frequently. There's really two components, two universally applied definitions, or a definition that has two components. And it really speaks to the duration of affordability and the depth. So duration is easy. It's the amount of time you're willing to provide that affordability within the project. And that duration usually coincides with either a government program, whether it be on the federal level or at the municipal level. And most programs at the municipal level, and certainly even at the federal level, to be considered affordable, the duration and to qualify, the duration now needs to be very close to 20 years plus. And then we talk about the depth of affordability. And this is about the discount to market. So if market rent is $100 per month, the discount to that rent is the component that we call the depth. And so some programs on the government side, the federal or even the municipal level, the depth of the discount at times needs to be very significantly less to market. And one of the lowest ones, I think, is under the co-investment program, where it is 80% of median rent. And we'll talk about what that means. Next slide, please. So let's talk now about this affordable narrative that we hear in the media and certainly in discussions in the cocktail circuit too. People refer to, and the statisticians use this thing called median family income. And so the median family income all of a sudden is used to determine at 30% or less is deemed to be affordable in the disposable income going to housing, be it ownership or rental. And let's just stick to rental for the time being. So here's an example of the Toronto CMA. This is a statistic published by StatsCan. I think the latest year is 2019. So 2019, the median family income for all incomes in Toronto is approximately $89,000. And so 30% of that, or $26,000 per annum, or $2,200 per month, or anything less than that, qualifies as affordable in the context of the discussions around affordability. And so the three tables I have below, the one on the left it looks at the median rent in Toronto, not a neighborhood, but generally speaking in the entire CMA of what the median rent is. And if we can remember our statistics course back in our school days, mean, median, mode, the mean is the average, the median is the middle. So if you take the universe of all the units that are being tracked and you take the middle one, that's what median represents. And so I'm going to go now to the table on the right, and this may not be current, it may not be pre-pandemic, but it's informational that the market rent in comparison to the median rent in Toronto is quite drastic, quite drastic. And the middle table is actually rent that would qualify in an affordable project under the co-investment, which is 80% of median rent. That's the informational part of this table. Next slide, please. If we look at now, just as a cross section, I just took 4 random municipalities, Peterborough, Ottawa, Barrie, and Guelph, and we do the calculation of median family income, 30%. You look at that highlight on the right side, and now compare it to the tables on the left. You notice something pretty stark, and it's quite interesting, actually. You look at a community in a city like Ottawa, where arguably it has, I think, the highest national average of median family income, primarily because it's a government town, there's lots of great jobs. And so their affordability is $2,900 a month or less to be deemed affordable under some of the metrics and some of the programs that are available. And so the purpose of this slide is to show you how discombobulated that statistic is when you look at it on its own. And let's not forget, it's a median family income. And anyone renting a bachelor or 1-bedroom likely is a 1-person family unit. And so their ability to access market rent or even affordable rent at their income level is quite tough. Next slide, please. So what I want to do here, and it's going to be instrumental in the latter part of my presentation. And Igor, please give me a heads up here on timing. I lose track. I'm pretty verbose at times. The intent of the next few slides, and we'll go very quickly, I just want to highlight numbers so we can then talk about those numbers contextually. So here's a budget of a project I was working on. It's very small. It's a multifamily construction budget. And it has every line item that you would include in putting together a pro forma. And so the only number I really want you, the big number I want you to concentrate on here is the market value of the land at approximately $1.5 million. And so the rest of the components that are included, city development charges, site plan agreement fees, whatnot, and you get the bigger number of close to 2.4. But remember the 1.5. Next slide, please. Here now we have the construction component of this particular budget. So the actual hard construction cost to deliver this building. And you look at it, it's not evident here, but on the right, you can see that on a per door, on a per net rentable area, on a per gross building area number. And you can see that this is a tremendous part of the budget. Over $11 million of the total budget. Next slide, please. Now we have our design, our third parties, our consultants, our architects, all the people that do the heavy lifting and really know how to develop the right type of product. And so we have now, this component of the budget. Next slide, please. A few more details. We have legals, we have marketing and sales, and leasing costs. So, another component of building our budget. Next slide, please. Then we have our financing costs, and really the numbers here to concentrate are when you're doing a development pro forma and you're requesting funds on a lot of construction draws, especially on the affordable side, you get to capitalize your construction loan interest into the project. And so the big numbers here are the construction loan interest that is accumulated during your build because you have no cash flow to pay. And so it is part of your draw and is capitalized. And then there's also a period where you're allowed to capitalize the interest payments until the property is cash flowing. And so those are the big numbers in that cash flow. Next slide, please. And then these ones, they're a little more cerebral. I don't want to get into the specifics. The important one here, or I'll talk about both of them actually. The contingency is quite important today. I've talked to so many cost consultants that were doing work 2 years ago for developers primarily selling condo units or developers thinking about doing multifamily residential. And I know we've all heard the cost escalations that have happened. I'm telling you what is going on now on the cost estimating side. The contingencies are going up dramatically, 3% to 5% to 8%. And I'm telling you, those are affecting the viability of whether projects get off the ground. Cost consultants are very weary of putting down numbers that a developer or a builder is going to come back and challenge of not being able to achieve those numbers. So they're very important. And then the last item on this page is HST. It's not really for discussion here, but we all have to pay the piper, even in a multifamily rental project. In a private sector development, there's something called the deemed disposition. On the not-for-profit side, there's a different treatment on that. So here's the takeaway very quickly that I want us to remember. We had a land cost of 1.5 at market value, and we have a total project budget of over $15 million. What I want you to highlight, and this is proven out now, and any developer, any manager can review their budgets now, land is a very small individual component of a total budget. It's almost 10 to 15%, quite frankly, of a total budget. So if someone is sitting on land and they want to embark on a journey, it's really the least of their concern is the value of the land. That's the takeaway, and you'll see how meaningful that is as we continue on. And this statistic is really very similar across the province. Maybe in GTA, it's heavier, 15 to 18%. Maybe in the suburbs and other jurisdictions, it's closer to 10%. But the number is within that tight band. All right. Next slide, please. So, Igor, how are we doing on time? Just so I can pace myself.
Probably have another minute or two if you want to wrap up soon.
Okay, please. I'll then go very fast. So notwithstanding the title of my presentation, we need to understand that our existing buildings in our portfolios and the land have value, but we have to understand that land comes with entitlements and how we get those entitlements. And that basically means the rezoning, going from an existing institutional use to a higher densification use. I also want to note that I have had clients and seen lots of great work where there's an ability to repurpose existing buildings. Let's not always think about demolition, and that's part of the message. So again, to reiterate, the overall budget to build something, what you're sitting on is not as huge as the rest of the components. The development planning cycle, as Tim mentioned, and others on the panel, it takes a while. And so you need to be prepared to sit and have the right type of partners. One of the things that a lot of groups are considering is selling outright. And I understand that point. You sell outright and you get a lump sum payment of that future cash flow. And so what you're lacking in that approach is creating an annuity. What you want to do is not take a lottery ticket. You want to convert that into payments in the future where you can support your community, your faith-based organizations, and whatever cultural groups you're associated with. Next slide, please. And we're almost done here. And so part of my approach when I'm dealing with clients is I always have a sell some, hold some approach. Sell some, if it is possible to sell something on your property, whether it's a component, what's stratified title, that creates a piggy bank for you. I call it a corporate piggy bank, but it's a social purpose piggy bank. And so that piggy bank now allows you to work and develop the wholesome. And so during that process, then we can help explore the other sources of capital that are available, be it equity or debt, to fund the balance of your wholesome strategy. And part of that is, as a lot of people on the panel have talked about, it's very important to have the right governance model, the right people, the right advocates, and executing the right vision. And what you want to do, really the lesson here, is to create income in perpetuity, to fund your community-based programs and give back in a particular way. Don't forget, when I was showing you the affordable rent, this thing we called affordable rent, and what I showed you under affordable rent, economic rent, which is market rent, is a huge chasm, and that chasm sometimes is the discouraging factor of providing affordable rental units in the marketplace when it's not economically justifiable. That's sort of something that is top of mind for anyone looking at delivering affordable units in the marketplace. And by the way, it's very evident to me, and maybe you'll come to this conclusion yourself, that any development that has affordable rental units, it's being subsidized by somebody else. Let's be clear about that. Whether it's other people paying market rent, whether it's government programs that we all contribute to, there is a bit of a quid pro quo there. Last slide, and we're done. We're almost done. I misspoke. Part of Peak Hill's ability is to actually match sponsor owners with the appropriate capital, whether it be debt or equity. And so that's part of our raison d'etre, and we'll explore all those appropriate sources that are available, and certainly the government programs that are available for you to execute your vision. And the last slide, please, which is the last slide. Here are your takeaways. Let's be very careful and mindful when we use the term affordable housing. Please use it when it's in relation to a program you're subscribing to. Or I don't want to create a movement, but I prefer to call it accessible housing, quite frankly, not in terms of handicap accessible, but accessible to as many people in the most social, in our social stratum. And if we can do that, that'd be great. Please be mindful, it's not a continuum, it is a spectrum. I think continuum, if you really consider it, it seems a little offensive, quite frankly. Lots of programs to take advantage of. There are many models that are available to you to obtain financing. And my last message really here on this slide is about creating something that is inclusive. Let's not create ghettos. Let's not create something that is just one. Inclusive neighborhoods, inclusive buildings have the full spectrum of affordability or accessibility within a program, and a development that is more sustainable in the long term. So thank you very much.